Recorded Books on RB Digital present Big Wonderful Thing, A Story of Texas by Stephen Harrigan. Narrated by me, George Guidell. From Georgia O'Keeffe. I couldn't believe Texas was real. Big wonderful thing that oceans and the highest mountains are. Prologue. Big Tex. The fire started in Big Tex's right boot. It was October 2012. Big Tex was 52 feet high and 60 years old. He had come into being when the Chamber of Commerce of Cairns, Texas, decided to build the world's largest Santa Claus as a lure to draw Christmas shoppers to their little East Texas town. Beneath his Santa suit of painted oilcloth was a sturdy armature made of drill pipe and structural steel scavenged from nearby oil fields. The giant Santa generated considerable attention at first, but after a windstorm blew away his clothes and the initial excitement of his presence wore off, the figure was sold to the State Fair of Texas in 1951 for $750. He was retrofitted as a cowboy and placed in front of the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, where he greeted fair visitors for the next 6 decades. Big Tex had a massive hinged jaw that opened and closed to an approximation of the welcoming words, "Howdy, folks," broadcast over loudspeakers by an announcer with an impeccably unhurried Texas accent. His outfits changed somewhat over the years, but he always wore a cowboy hat and jeans and a belt buckle as big as a turkey platter. His right arm, bent at the elbow, waved stiffly at fairgoers. His left arm, flung out awkwardly against the blue sky in a gesture meant to seem expansive, looked painfully broken. For all his creepiness, Big Tex was beloved, a nostalgic reminder of a mid-century time when Texas had agreed to embrace a gentle caricature of itself as a cowboy state, outsized and outlandish, proudly unconcerned with taste. Big Tex was a homely, homegrown icon, the sort of thing that was featured along with the Alamo and the Astrodome on souvenir dinner plates and illustrated tourist maps. The cause of the fire was an electrical short at the base of the figure, but the first indication that something was wrong with Big Tex appeared much higher up when greasy black smoke began to seep from beneath his shirt collar. Soon, bright flames crept up to consume his face and cowboy hat, and then they appeared along the crotch and seams of his jeans. Within a few minutes, the conflagration was complete. Nothing left but his blackened steel frame, his right hand, and the outlines of his charred face. In less than a year, in time for the next state fair, a new Big Tex was erected in the same spot. The updated version cost $500,000, was 3 feet taller and 19,000 pounds heavier, but the sight of the new Big Tex being unveiled could not eclipse the weirdly horrifying image of the old one in flames. It's too much to say that the original Big Tex was a symbol of a simpler time. There have been no simple times in Texas history. But it belonged to a different Texas, a Texas that had not yet entered an age of ironic reflection. The new Big Tex was sort of a joke, in the way the old one never had been. Everyone understood that it had been reconstructed simply for nostalgia's sake, to fill an empty place in the Lone Star psyche. But it was no longer possible for a single image, that of a waving, welcoming cowboy, to truly evoke the heaving 21st century mix of cultural allegiances and colliding identities that Texas had become. Both the original Big Tex and the new one stood dead center in the very place where that old, half-mythical, cohesive identity had been codified and triumphantly proclaimed to the world. Fair Park, which is a few miles east of downtown Dallas, is not just the location of the annual state fair and the Cotton Bowl football stadium. It was also the site of the 1936 Texas Centennial Exposition, the gigantic birthday party that Texas staged for itself.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.